Hello, and thanks for joining us at the Unidentified Celebrity Review. I'm Rather Be Squitting. We'll be kicking off the show in just a couple minutes. But before we do, I want to mention a few things. First, a warning. If you are not a Patreon member and you have been planning on updating your wardrobe for a more UAP forward look, I advise you to hold off on any decisions until you tune in here Wednesday. Or find Lou's Patreon link in the description below, donate $1 a month or more, and find out what they might know now. Trust me though, while Patreon members might get special access to the latest UAP fashion trends, there is no gatekeeping or UAP information special access to this show. As Lou says, it's a public access show. We're doing this to learn and disseminate any knowledge we might gather. The broader that reach, the more impact we all have. So please participate in the live chat, hit that thumbs up button, and share the show. We really appreciate it. And to those of you who are Patreon members, we saw you in the calendar there, a huge thank you. Your contributions really add up and make a huge difference. Next, I have a little biology trivia for you. All living things, even plants, respirate. Respiration is not the same as breathing, although breathing is how we respirate. The term respiration refers specifically to burning or oxidizing sugar and oxygen to get carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Next, although you might assume the term oxidize means combine with oxygen, the chemical term really just means the loss of an electron by a substance. You can oxidize a substance without oxygen. I bring these facts up not to just be pedantic, but to highlight Earth's biology. All life here is ultimately based on something storing and releasing energy with what are called redox reactions, storing energy by passing around electrons. Usually when scientists talk about hypothetical exotic alien life using different biology, they simply mean life that uses different redox reactions, beings that oxidize their organic substrate without oxygen. But according to some very interesting work on creating artificial, inorganic life, thoughts are beginning to change. Aliens may be more alien than we had thought. Perhaps they may be closer to the liquid metal robot from Terminator 2 than the stereotypical gray alien. I'll be exploring these possibilities on an upcoming video on my channel, Rather Be Squitting. And I'll be keeping them in mind today as our today's guest talks about a very interesting area, ripe for UAP research. And let's not keep you all waiting any longer here. It's 4 o'clock. And although I can't verify that these aren't liquid metal replicants, I'm pretty sure they're the real deal. Please welcome them in the live chat, your hosts of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Luis Jimenez and Michael Mataluni.
Hello, everyone. How was everyone's weekend?
Yeah. Mine was good, dude. I got to see Green Day this weekend. I saw Weezer. Dude.
I saw that.
Bro.
I saw that. You were like at one of those super sprinter events. In the worst state.
In Florida, no less.
I did see your masks on, so I'm sure
we did have
you guys
masks.
would be fine. And
we did have masks and vaccines.
Vaccinations, so there you go.
Both.
So, Mike, I'm glad to see you here, particularly because when I looked at the schedule, I was like, wait a second, Mike's not here all week. Did something change?
Oh, yes. We were planning on going on vacation this week, and it got changed. Kristen and I were going to Costa Rica, but because of COVID, we had to reschedule, and yeah, so I'm here all week, baby.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got some fun stuff coming up on the next 2 hours. The first hour is going to be the Hessdalen Lights with Campbell Moreira.
Moreira, yes, sir.
Moreira. Which, by the way, he's not here. Did I send him a link? Pretty sure I did.
It's Monday, boys and girls.
Well, do me a favor, Michael. Before we do all that, of course, hello, good morning, good evening, good day,
I got it.
afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFOs. Before we get into the first hour, and second hour is going to be basically Twitter. UFO Twitter has just been on absolute fire since the Dave Beatty reveal. We're going to talk about Dave Beatty and how he basically just made his film completely obsolete, The Nemesis Encounter, which is a bummer, but also kind of cool. And then we're also going to talk about Jeremy Corbell's tweets as well. But before we do, of course, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. And of course, I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes that you hear on the show, and their Bandcamp link is in the description below. If you didn't hear, we have a merch store. If you want access right now, you can check out the Patreon, join Patreon, and you can find the link there. If you want to wait till Wednesday, it'll be available Wednesday. We're going to launch it here on Wednesday. We're going to talk about the store. We're going to show everything that's in there. We're also going to talk about possibly something else, some really, really big news. So stay tuned for Wednesday's show. And then, of course, on Friday, we've got Jay from Project Unity coming in. He was supposed to be in a couple weeks ago, but Michelle had her accident on that day, so we had to cancel that show. And now he's coming back on Friday to talk about his podcast and sort of the state of ufology right now and sort of the community. And Michael, you've got Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Singularity Lab.
Yes,
who
we
got?
do.
Who are our guests? Because I saw this week's lineup. It looks awesome.
We've got Bradley Voorhees to discuss the God equation from the point of view of a madman. You're going to love this episode. It's going to be wild. You have to hold on to your hats. You welcome to Fringe Science Land. We are bringing you the best. And then Thursday, we've got Swarm Troopers, How Small Drones Will Be Taking Over the World with David Hambling from Forbes magazine. It's going to be a wild, wild week.
Excellent. Okay, so I did give the link to Campbell.
I just sent it to him as well.
Okay, no worries.
I just want to give a shout out to Mickle and a Pickle, who's also a Weezer fan. Much love to you, my friend.
Well, you gotta love Weezer, dude.
Who doesn't love Weezer?
If you don't love Weezer, you know,
jackwagon.
Yeah. You gotta look in the mirror because something's it's definitely not outside of that mirror. So I guess, we got to kill some time here until Campbell gets here, right?
Yeah, and he's going to be here in a second. I actually just checked our Twitter, and we didn't send it to him on Twitter, and he asked for the link at 6:59. So I'm sure he'll check that in a second, and he'll be here if he's not watching now.
He asked for it at 4:02 as well, so he should be here soon.
Okay, cool, awesome. So then that's on me. That's on me, right?
It's on us. It's on us. We're a team here at UCR.
I thought I sent the link to everybody, but I guess I was mistaken. So
when one of us fails, we all fail.
We all fail.
We all fail together.
Looks like, people.
That's right.
Okay. What was that? I heard a noise.
No, I don't think that was him.
I thought that was him joining. Okay. So, well.
I'm curious. So, okay, wait. So, can we rewind to this incredible intro that Rather just shared? I'm very curious. What's like? Can you break down a little bit more what you're going to be covering this week on Rather Be Squidding?
Yeah, there was a really interesting video on the Science Channel last week covering molten metal aliens. And so that's what kind of gave me the suspicion that maybe you might be a molten metal Michael Mataluni. I hope that's not the case, but the theory is that on these distant worlds where there's oceans of liquid metal, where our biology could not exist, but that doesn't necessarily mean any biology can't exist. And there's a scientist, I forget his name right now, but it's doing amazing work creating inorganic life using metallic oxide cells that behave, they can move, they can replicate, they can do all the things that biology can do, but they're clearly not biology. And so that's kind of opening the doors for people thinking that, who knows what the possibilities are.
Right up my alley. If you come up with any great people that I should interview about that, let me know, because that sounds amazing.
For sure, will do.
Oh, and Campbell has joined us.
Campbell is here. We have found our guest for the day. Okay, so Michael, would you like to introduce?
I would absolutely love to introduce today's guest. Great guy. He is a small business owner from Toronto, Ontario. As hello on Reddit. Campbell advocates for greater awareness of the Hessdalen lights and created UAPstudy.com to promote scientific research associated with these mysterious aerial phenomenon. He was on the Singularity Lab last week. Ladies and gentlemen, Campbell Moreira.
Hey, thanks to have me on, guys. It's great to be back. Looking forward to this since you guys asked me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking to you like Michael just mentioned on the Singularity Lab. I was like, as soon as we stopped the end of the show, I'm like, got to get Campbell on my show next
He did immediately.
Because I was like, okay, wait a second. How have we missed this scientific study by scholastic, professors and scientists? And I'm sure I've got Rather here. As always, to just check the science, because he's always he's always good on that stuff. But it fascinated me. I was like, I've heard of the Hessdalen lights,
yeah,
but I didn't understand sort of the gravity of what's going on there, especially again, from a scientific perspective. So that's what I really wanted to dive into today. And I'm not sure, Campbell, I didn't ask you how much time you have, but if you want to hang out for the whole show, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Because I have a feeling this is going to be a conversation that might require more than an hour. And if that's the case, that's okay. I mean, we do have some news to talk about, but it's not like earth-shattering news in the Twitterverse. It's just basically people talking and yelling at each other. Drama. But anyway, so where would you like to start, Campbell? I guess first, for folks who don't know who you are, and sort of what got you into the topic and why you're doing this and what drew you to this topic, just the origin story, if you can, for us, just to catch folks up who don't know who you are.
Yeah. Well, the thing I love about the Hessdalen lights is that it is empirical science data. So it really has nothing to do with me as an individual, but I'll give a quick rundown of who I am just to give some context. Just a regular guy. I worked as a government clerk for many years. My grandparents unfortunately passed away. They left my brother and I the farm. So now I manage the farm. I live in Toronto with my wife and our cat, and graduated with a degree in ethics and business administration from University of Ottawa. Pretty much got interested in this. Honestly, the 2017 New York Times article made me start looking at it. Before that, I had never taken an interest in the subject. I mean, actually, as a kid, I read all the books, but not the important ones. But yeah, exactly. And then, but from 2017 until former President Obama went on the Late Late Show, I was sort of like, interesting. There's not too much there. After former President Obama went on that show, and he said, there are objects and we don't understand how they move, ... their trajectory. That really connected with me, because that's the classic difference between an unidentified object that, like the skeptics will say, oh, of course that UFOs exist, whatever. But then the trajectory is what really matters. And then I dove in and I came across the Hessdalen lights just randomly on one of these lists of interesting things, 10 mysteries. And it was the only thing, the only subject on this whole thing, as I kept reading and reading, that didn't end up resolving itself or having sort of no clear finality to it. Just the more and more I dove into the Hessdalen lights, the more and more information there was. And we all know there's such a lack of information in some ways on this subject. I mean, there's a ton, but then the information channels are also a little bit clogged by the amount, and it's hard to differentiate. But seeing these scientists for decades producing so much work on it, that's what really got me interested. Just the verifiability is really what connected.
Interesting. So what are the scientists that you saw connected to this project that you went, oh, interesting?
Yes. The main scientist is a assistant professor named Professor Erling Strand from Norway. He works at Østfold University College, and he's been on this since 1984. Dr. J. Allen Hynek went to Hessdalen in 1985 after the first period of observations with radar and other instruments, and they ended up successfully simultaneously tracking these objects on radar and with cameras and all these other things. They had all these different sensors. I have them listed on the website. And Dr. Hynek was so intrigued, he went there. And so Professor Strand's been on it for a long time. Another one is Dr. Stelio Montebugnoli. He is the chief engineer at the Italian, the national federal organization responsible for astrophysics. Very prominent position, very well respected. And then a couple other scientists, specifically Dr. Massimo Teodorani, last Thursday on the Singularity Lab. He has done so much work on this, and he really is a trailblazer. Back in 2014, he wrote a published paper about creating a network of remote observation stations all over the world to triangulate and identify these objects. And he was actually recruited in 2015 by an organization called UFO Data. On the board of directors of that organization, there was Chris Mellon and Leslie Keane. A couple of years before that huge article came out, and they recruited him personally because of his experience with Hessdalen to create a worldwide sensor network very similar to Project Galileo. And they just never got it off the ground. They didn't have the money. And now Dr. Teodorani is on the research affiliate group for Project Galileo. So even Dr. Loeb recognizes his significance on this subject.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love the fact that Avi picked him up, and they started working together pretty much immediately. This was, a few days ago, right after they launched, right?
I don't know exactly what the timeline was. I actually didn't know that they were working together until Dr. Teodorani on your show said that. And then I went on the website today and just verified it, but it is there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by the Hessdalen lights. The one thing that I've never really got a sense for, though, is like how often do they occur? And like the common person in Norway, would they know what this is? Would they have seen it? Or is it like a remote kind of thing that isn't very well known even out there?
Yeah, well, so it all started in the early to mid 80s. There was a period of 3 years, something like 1983 to 1986, where the lights, it's a variety of things, and that's what gets really interesting, but we'll go into that in a minute. But these objects for 3 years were appearing at a rate of around 20 significant notable events a week. And everybody could go and see. Thousands and thousands of people went because it was so fascinating to see these things. And the descriptions of the objects themselves vary widely, but there's something for everybody. It's really remarkable. So then slowly over the decades into the late 90s, the sightings had decreased to about 20 a year. And there's probably more than that, but they occur. It's easiest to see in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. was one of the most notable sightings. So who knows exactly how many are occurring, but they're being observed like much less. I think in 2018 or something, I saw that it was around 11 recorded sightings. So not too many, and you have to be up all night. So it's not super easy to see them, but I'm wanting to go because I think that having an opportunity in real life, even a chance of seeing one of these things in real life would just potentially be life-changing. Just such a, just completely unprecedented.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So we talked to Dr. Teodorani, I think it was last Thursday, and one of the things that I found so fascinating that he mentioned about this phenomenon is there's multiple different buckets of this phenomenon, and there's a lot of different theories and hypotheses as what's creating it, and they can't even kind of settle on, there's so many different types of formations. Can you kind of break down what those buckets are?
Yes, there's a wide variety, like you're saying. The main categories, it's hard to definitively categorize because there's just so much going on. But Professor Strand delineates between sequences of bright, sudden flashes of light. That's one thing that happens rather continuously, is the most frequent, just like you see just instantaneous flashes. That's not that interesting. I mean, it is fascinating, but it's not like super cool. The next set of objects are these large, long-lasting spheres of light that will appear, they'll hover, they'll take off at the speed 8,000 meters per second. It's been recorded on radar. It gets slower other times. That's a remarkable instance. They do all kinds of stuff that you would expect, and they really do match a lot of classic UAP descriptions of some varieties, because there's a variety, as we all know of, and that's why we don't say UFO phenomenon, we say phenomenon.
So the class that you're talking about now, the large, long-lasting spheres of light that hover and move quickly, are those associated with plasma, and how are they catching them on radar?
Well, it's conceptual. They don't know exactly what it's made of, and that's why they've been working so hard to get spectral analysis, and they have done it, but not at a resolution yet, because they're so hard to capture, so sudden and then so quick. But the spectral analysis indicates that they're the one that they captured well, either a solid or a high density plasma. And if it is plasma, then we're looking at a self-sustaining sphere of plasma that is seemingly, it's some kind of fusion process seemingly, and the best that humans are capable of after, well, since I think it was discussed, when was it, late 80s, I believe, that they sort of definitively locked down fusion. And the best we can do in 2021, I think, is around 100 seconds, if I recall correctly. And these
we can create and sustain that sort of plasma formation.
Yeah, so, I mean, if it turns out to be plasma, these particular, and there's another category I'm going to get into in a second that is just truly fascinating, and that's really what the, I think key to this is. But if these things are plasma spheres, plasmoids that are doing this in our atmosphere, it's like on its own, that could be, I mean, if we figure out how it's doing that, that's infinite clean energy, pure energy.
That might lead us to a fusion process and potentially something pretty extraordinary, right? Yeah,
the containment mechanism is what's unclear right now. It's very challenging to contain this kind of reaction, and these things are seemingly doing it on their own, and it's not clear exactly how. So even sometimes people are like, well, Hessdalen lights, aren't those just natural? And it's like, if they are natural, what the hell what is this then? It's extremely important regardless. But as the researchers themselves say, there's a variety of different things happening here, and we don't really know exactly how it's connected. And I think that there are possibilities that are speculative, but they could sort of allow for a wide variety of options here with these things. And so the third category of object, the most interesting by far, is what Dr. Teodomiri referred to as structured objects. And on your show, Michael, last Thursday, he describes how he was there and he sees for a few minutes a object with that took a triangular shape, a point of light on each vertex, and he had his binoculars with him, and he looked through the binoculars, and he could see something clearly physical between the lights. Because you asked him at the time, you're like, oh, you mean like three just together? And he's like, no. I looked through the binoculars and I could see something between them. And he has no explanation. And then he started saying, because he's a physical scientist, and he started saying, well, maybe it's like military practicing with drones, and like maybe they test them in this place because they can screw around and then nobody knows what it is. But he acknowledges very openly he does not have an explanation for what he saw. And all of these researchers have seen this type of thing, a variety of different kinds, but they see these structured objects, and it's very intriguing.
That was shocking to me because, he's a physicist and he's really talking about, and when he started that conversation, he was really talking about how fascinating this could be for science, right? The first two specific buckets that you talked about, the long-lasting spheres, as well as the sudden bright flashes. That's intriguing for a scientist, and he really was intrigued by that. But the fact that he shared that he saw, in addition, a structured object, that was pretty shocking to me.
Absolutely. And, they don't talk about this. Well, Dr. Teodomiri does mention the structured kinds in some of his papers. But the other scientists, it's kind of fun. Like, they're clearly don't want to necessarily talk about them openly because they've struggled so much with people in the academic community, even acknowledging that even the flashes of light exist. It's
Right.
like, and it's stunning. And there's a real conversation to be had about how that is possible if they've demonstrated at least that there are self-contained plasma, fusion type reactions occurring for longer than we're capable of many, we can't do it past 100 seconds. So, and then Professor Strand himself saw one for an hour and a half in 1983 continuously. And he said it changed his life because he was out looking for these things. And then he sees one and it's this massive sphere and it spends an hour and a half going up and down the valley, zipping around, slows down. He said that it appeared like a spotlight off the bottom, illuminating the treetops. And since then, like, you can't walk away from that and not feel that you've been humbled fundamentally by either, who knows what it is, but something humbled you.
Wow.
Wow.
Real quick, I had a question about the military because you had mentioned it, but I wanted to say thank you to Ben for this $5 donation. Big fan of the channel. Keep up the great work, UCR team. Thank you so much, Ben. Your donations go a long way. Again, we are a public access channel, so we're supported by viewers like you. So thank you, appreciate it. And then there was another question here, real quick, that I wanted to acknowledge, and it was something along the lines of, "Is this live? Is this like new?" And I can't find it. It went somewhere. But the answer to your question, there it is, Jared. Is this live/new? Yes, this show is live. We're doing this as we speak. So if you have a question, throw it in there. Of course, super chat questions are easierly seen. I just made that up. That's a new word. But yeah, so welcome. Subscribe, like, share the channel, you guys. 170 of you in there. Let's see if we can get up to 200. That would be sick because we're having a really fun conversation on the Hessdalen Lights. What do you love, Michael?
Well, I just love like the Hessdalen Lights. Like it makes my imagination run wild, right? And it's this interesting thing because I always talk about on our shows how I've got like this kind of very skeptical half, and then I've got this very interested, imaginative half, and my imaginative half really wants to know, like, if this were some sort of intelligence or interdimensional, plasma or something, if it's possible that this is kind of a veil, right, between worlds or some sort of portal type deal happening, whether, whatever the structures may be, are they associated, the actual structured objects, are they associated with the plasma? Are they associated with the other, short lights? And if this is something that may be trying to push its way through or communicate in some way through the dimensions. So that, to me, this is just like an incredible, set of studies. It's an extraordinary phenomenon, and it absolutely fascinates me.
No, it is. It's cool. It's cool as shit. And by the way, Michael, touch your nose. There you go. It's live. Look at the comment.
No. Somebody has to say it in the chat. You can't say it.
Oh, well, they did. Look, it's on. If this is
live,
yes.
No, you're right. A human called Dave touching. Okay, we're live. We're live.
Yeah, we're live. But yeah, no. What do you have to say to that, Campbell? Because I'm just lost as to how this is not a bigger deal. Like how this is not on the. Why isn't the Galileo project saying, hey, you know what? Let's take this data, because that's something you could start with. I know they weren't in charge of it, but they could at least look at the data. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they're looking to verify these objects exist, why are they not going to, as Dr. J. Allen Hynek identified back in '85? He says, this place is a UFO laboratory because things are recurring. And so you can study them like in a lab. And for the first time in human history, you can study UFOs. And he specifically identified like these objects as UFOs. And it makes me really happy that he went there in '85 because he died within a year of going to Hessdalen.
Wow.
But I like to think he saw the significance of it. That's why he personally went. And at the end of his life, after spending so much time and effort attempting to validate eyewitness experiences, I think he got a glimpse at a physical reality that he never personally, I believe he stated he never personally saw an object, but he saw what might result in an end to the debate. And, he was always very heavily motivated by that sense of wanting to validate eyewitnesses. But on the bigger question, I do think that there are options here for anything. And I think these objects are so varied that they allow for any kind of possibilities. I think one of the highlighted comments you showed said like intelligent plasma. And it's like, that's possible. I was looking at some lab reproducible studies, and it's been for about a decade now, or at least maybe longer. They've defined many of the features of plasma are consistent with how they define life forms. They're self-contained, they draw in energy, they replicate. Who knows what exactly that means, but it's conceivable that there's some kind of intelligent plasma phenomenon. I'm not sure that, it's not guaranteed, obviously, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I just I was doing some research for my metal alien hypothesis. And one of the things that I came across was this concept of plasma crystals, where dust, I don't totally understand this, but this is a New Scientist article from 2007 where they say that dust can combine with plasmas and create these pretty much structures that look like DNA and do exactly the things that you were talking about, which is a strange possibility.
Yeah, it really brings some questions to mind, because plasma, it's very, it's a neat thing to study in a lab because it can scale up in a very notable way. So you can do something on a very small scale, and plasma is sort of, scales up, so you can sort of predict how it will behave on larger scales that way. The possibility of this valley being some kind of portal has actually been in the conversation since the 80s. The first study was done by a group of different UFO groups from Norway and Sweden, and they came together, and they actually, a number of them were scientists, or at least research fellows at various organizations, and they put together a proposal. They got support from the University of, I don't want to screw this up, Oslo, I believe, and then also the Norwegian military gave them some stuff, and then they did a very effective study that impressed Dr. Hynek enough to go there. But this concept of it being a portal has been part of it for quite some time.
Well, I was going to wait real quick. I guess I did it because he had mentioned earlier a little while back about possible military experiments there. Are there a lot of military bases around this area?
Okay, I was trying to do some research on that. I have not found anything verifiable. I've seen several articles reference that NATO had in close proximity some radar stations. Now, I don't know exactly what that would necessarily mean. And honestly, I don't want to blow up Dr. Tutorani's spot, but I think based on reading a lot of his work and stuff, he is very aware of the stigma associated with these things, and he is very cautious. And I think we saw that a little bit in terms of speculation, because even though he has so clearly defined his entire career when he decides to speculate, those instances, even when he is crystal clear, come back later and are like, damaging to him. So it's an issue where it's some of these documentaries from the 90s and stuff are really cool. And I have them all linked on the website. There's a page of the full documentaries. I think there's something like 20 that I found, features and stuff like that. But one of them from the 90s, Dr. Tutorani and Dr. Montebunoli and Professor Strand, all sitting around having dinner together with a few other researchers, and they're talking about some of their experiences. And I've never seen this anywhere else. They don't write about it. And they're talking about, it's actually Stelia Montebunoli and Erling Strand are talking about having an experience in the mountains where for about 10 minutes, they're seeing one of these structured objects, and they're having these subjective psychological experiences. And the only thing that I can compare it to are lab experiments involved in very high intensity electromagnetic radiation exposure. But it's stuff like feeling like you're on a ship, with waves rocking you, and an intense sense of being watched and knowing that something is looking at you. And also sometimes this experience in lab settings can produce a sense of just like complete like fear, sometimes terror. And this, Dr. Monte Pinoli describes after about 10 minutes of observing this object, he ran away in terror personally. He panicked and fled to the vehicle and talked about how he felt so bad because he abandoned Professor Strand. And Professor Strand was having an opposite effect. And this is interesting because it's also reproducible in labs as well. You can have a sense of almost connection or positivity. And Professor Strand was like approaching the object.
So do you know what this reminds me of? The exact same diametrically opposed experiences of people who take psychedelics.
Yes. And it's a very similar region in the brain that they actually target in the lab with these electromagnetic waves. And, anytime you get involved in this subject, you see so quickly that psychedelics are sort of come up, and the psychological, this is just subjective element to this, come up. And I think that, I don't know obviously what the exact connection is. It could be possible that if these are some kind of craft, there's no proof of that obviously, but if they are, maybe the power source emits these radiation waves. If it's a self-contained fusion plasma, they would also emit these waves. So there's something very interesting going on here.
Well, I kind of like this idea. I mean, Paul Davies told us a story on our show about a ball of plasma showing up in a commercial airliner.
Yes, ball lightning, I believe, which is distinct. Yeah. Yes, ball lightning is very hard to study, and it's very fast in terms of it lasting only a short period of time. The exact situation he's describing, I believe the plane was in a lightning storm, and it was struck by lightning, and then there was a very quick process of this orb of light seemingly traveling down the cabin. So the scientists who have written on the subject of trying to describe what they think might be happening with these the spherical kinds, they've said it may be an electrochemical reaction similar to but different from ball lightning.
Yeah, because ball lightning has nothing to do with plasma, right?
It is a form of plasma, but it's not self-sustaining. Yeah, it's a product of lightning strikes. That's directly associated with a lightning strike. The only video that I've been able to find that's verified in any way shows a lightning strike and then a couple of small orbs of ball lightning flying off and very rapidly dissipating.
I was curious to hear that there are some effects on consciousness with these lights. That's the first I've heard of that. But it kind of begs the question, do you know of any attempts of like people going and doing CE5 experiments or trying to do something to summon them?
In terms of summoning, I guarantee that people have gone there and done that. I'm not familiar personally. Something very interesting though, related to CE5 is the whole thing with the lasers, right? We've all sort of seen these references, at least many people online, people claim you can engage these things with lasers, and it sounds like ridiculous, kind of to me anyway. But in reading about the Hessdalen lights in 1984, Professor Strand, when he was there with the initial study, they had a laser. And they can't explain this because the laser does not add energy, but they did a series of tests and they pointed a laser at a specific sphere that was visible. 8 of the 9 times they pointed the laser at the sphere, the frequency of the light, it was doing a rhythmic pulsing, the frequency changed when the laser made contact with the orb. And there's nothing, no one can explain this, but it's how they describe it. And it immediately brought to mind these videos of people shining the lasers up at the sky and trying to interact with these lights.
Michael, real quick, let's reset the room, and then I want to ask this question from UFOT because she's actually starting a channel, so go check her out, you guys. Just a great female, very smart female mind in the UAP world, so I would definitely Angel Street, go check her out. Real quick, let's reset the room. Let's just remind everybody what's going on. And yeah, because this conversation is pretty sick.
It's amazing. For those of you just joining us, we are speaking with Campbell Moreira. He is a small business owner in Toronto, Ontario. As Wello Hello on Reddit, Campbell advocates for greater awareness of the Hessdalen lights and created UAPstudy.com to promote scientific research associated with the mysterious aerial phenomenon. He actually introduced me to Dr. Tia Durrani, who was on the Singularity Lab last Thursday. So make sure you also check that out. If you guys are passionate about the unidentified celebrity review and you're ready to sport some merch, we've got some merch for you. And we have the link in the description below.
No, we're giving that link away publicly on Wednesday. So everybody will have access to the merch on Wednesday, unless, of course, you're a Patreon member. If you're a Patreon member, you can get access now, baby. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to reiterate that the special access that you're getting does not include any information related to UFO and UAP. All of that comes to you free every single day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Unidentified Celebrity Review and the Singularity Lab. The only special access you get by being a Patreon member is to cool merch stuff and maybe some other internal fun stuff. So, but what's really important is that you support the show, because every single day that we are here, we're looking to bring you top quality interviews, top quality guests, and make sure you have a good time learning about the things you're interested in. So all you got to do is make sure you click the subscription button below, click that bell, and hang with us. Have fun.
Yeah. And by the way, we've been speaking of just great interviews, and people were nailing down because we've got more free time to do stuff like this. We're going to have Ross Coher coming on next week, and also Dave Beatty to discuss the happenings of this last week. But so yeah, let's get into this next question here. So UFOT says, do the lights track on radar? Which we've established they have tracked on radar, but this radar question is good. Have they been able to test this and repeat this data? And what kind of radar systems are they catching this on? Like, I mean, again, we're talking about 1983 till now, I guess, right? So this is almost 38 years almost of this phenomena really being heavy in this area. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I can say that verifiably they do show up on radar. I think if we let me think, in 1984 they did track them repetitively. That was the particular instance I described where they tracked it from 8,000 to 9,000 meters per second, which I can't remember the exact translation into miles, but it's the exact same speed that Kevin Day recorded these objects. Well, not the same necessarily, but the objects he observed on radar, 28,000 feet to sea level in 0.78 seconds. And that is about, it's 8,600 meters per second is the equivalent within 100 meters. So right in the middle of the estimate that Professor Strand provided in 84 is the exact same speed that Kevin Day described this type of, we don't know if it's the same, but it seems to me to be very similar. And then in 1998, after they've did a bunch more sort of smaller scale studies and stuff like that, then Professor Strand was working at the University College Hospital. They put up a remote sensor station, and it was 24/7 live streaming to the internet, and that had video cameras and radar attached to it, and the radar would activate the camera and then film the objects. And they got a bunch of images, and they got quite an interesting video that finally sort of allowed them to move forward and show, these things are occurring. And that was in 1999. But they were using radar to turn on the video cameras because they do track on radar. And I don't know if there's time, but if we want to get into the history of the declassified government documents about radar anomalies and things like that, like the 1953 CIA working group memo on UFOs, the objects they describe as radar anomalies that are jamming equipment, and they need to train the radar operators to distinguish between Soviet threats and these objects. It's it's very similar, and I think that there's a lot. If you sort of step outside of just the Hessdalen science, you start to see that the government documents that have been declassified describe exactly the same things that these scientists have been describing for the last 30 years, but they were doing it in 1953. And it's stunning because there's no publicly available information to support the idea that they would be able to actually discern what they were talking about.
Do you, when it comes to the scientific makeup of things like the aurora borealis, how is that different from this sort of phenomenon?
I cannot talk about the details. The aurora borealis is an interaction with solar radiation in the upper atmosphere, is my understanding. It's
an atmospheric reaction.
Yes, and these objects are tracked in, well, a variety, but largely from the Hessdalen perspective in the low Earth atmosphere, which makes them very interesting.
Okay. So aurora borealis is high atmosphere. This is low atmosphere.
Yes.
I'm sorry, real quick. There's a couple things that happened. First of all, Luke Watanabe, thank you so much. Such a sweet comment. Hello, I'm here every show. I just don't leave comments because there's so many people leaving comments. I really love this show and everybody on here. Nobody's doing it like the UCR. Truly, truly appreciate that. And then the other thing I wanted to say real quick, during the show, we've got another Patreon. We got 3 new Patreons in the month of August, and I just wanted to read their names because they weren't on the list at the beginning of the show. So the first is a $5 per month pledge by Colin Smith. Thank you so damn much. Amazing. And then another one for $20 a month by Jack Ryan. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Jack Ryan. Again, this is the gentleman who made that huge Where's Waldo picture. Okay, so the dude is hilarious and talented. And then we got another pledge, and this tier in my Patreon is called a legitimate bill because it's $86.44 a month. And so we got a pledge for a legitimate bill from Brian Foster for $86.44 a month. Thank you guys so damn much. That is incredible. That's $100 extra a month right there in 3 pledges. And I promise you that goes an incredibly long way to, again, making sure there's shows 5 days a week. I don't want to take up too much time on that because we talk about it every half hour, but just wanted to say that because I
also wanted to say, make sure let's give Case for Infinity a shout out.
Yes,
yeah, because Case for Infinity donated, and I think the name was different, and so just want to
Well, we're gonna. Well, I believe her name's in there. It's just she wanted to change.
Brooke. Yeah, she wanted, just because nobody knows.
We'll change it. We'll change it next week. But yes, thank you, Case for Infinity. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail the show there. Where were we?
Well, I was sharing with you all. No,
you were talking about the Northern Lights. I kind of have a theory I wanted to run by you, Campbell, kind of along the Northern Lights. And so if you remember, like the Large Hadron Collider, they got sued because people thought that they were going to be creating these little mini black holes and that would take over, suck up the universe and stuff. And the counter argument to that was that there's actually a natural particle collider in our atmosphere in the Van Allen belt where these little particles are zipping around at light speed naturally and collide sometimes. And like the Northern Lights, this would be happening kind of like at the poles and at the equator. And potentially there's some really weird high particle physics that is, going back to even opening up portals, maybe creating a little mini black hole that's a portal to another universe. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I know Travis's thoughts. He's going in.
I mean, really anything's possible. I was just working on the research page on the website yesterday. After Lou asked about the research, I went into a deep dive and I found it's about 96, I think, articles I put on there that are just directly or, almost directly related to Hessdalen lights by the researchers. But there's been a lot of options in the 90s. I remember seeing there's an article in the 90s on there. It's chronological. I could find it, but it has to do with the propagate, like mini black holes forming. Like it was a theoretical article, academic article about mini black holes potentially forming in Earth's atmosphere, and then sort of speculatively suggesting different possible pieces of evidence for that. And it's totally possible. I think There are just so many options, and nobody really knows. Like in the 2000, the Condon report from the United Kingdom, the Ministry of Defense produced this document. It was declassified in 2006. In that document, they lay out a perfect description of the Hessdalen lights, and they say these are UFOs. They call them UAPs, and they say that UAPs that exhibit extraordinary characteristics indisputably exist. They say, the Ministry of Defense in 2000, in their report, they say it is indisputable that these objects exist. And this is a classified report. Only 11 copies were produced, and it was designed internally. It was internal communication. It was not public facing. So they were sharing confidential information, and it was to inform the top Ministry of Defense leadership as to the true nature of UFOs. They did not even tell the ministers responsible for government oversight of the ministry that it existed. And they denied it existed until it was forced to be released by Freedom of Information. So they describe these objects, and then in there they say, well, we don't know where they're coming from, but one option is that maybe meteoric debris transitions into these kinds of things. They don't know that, but they speculate that.
Damn.
Indisputable.
I mean, it seems frustrating, right? That if we know that they're happening here, and we still, we can reproduce it and see it, but we still can't nail it down. It's what more can we do?
Yeah, well, the researchers themselves, it's really neat to see them in sort of interviews and documentaries. I mean, the academic papers themselves are quite interesting, but hearing them talk about the frustration, it's like they've had essentially verifiable empirical information. Oh yeah, you're going over the website. That first photo is potentially the best photo of a verified UAP ever taken, right there.
Oh, this right here, yeah.
Yes, it is 30 seconds exposure, taken by assistant professor Bjorn Haug, University College, Oswald University. And it's 30 seconds. It has a spectral grid on it. They get the spectrum, and it shows on the left side, you can see it demonstrates extraordinary right angle turns repetitively. This is the track of the object. That's 10 to 15 kilometers, 6 to 9 miles in 30 seconds. It starts in that very bright point, zips across, and then comes back and does these wild turns that you can see there. Very surprising. And the researchers say this is, they think, the best photo of a UAP ever taken.
Wow. Well, you could definitely see the triangle turns that the street that it's leaving there, and then it even comes down. It almost looks like what it would be like 30 degrees or whatever, and then straightens out again.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like a flare could do something like that.
No, definitely not. I mean, even if you shot it sideways out of a plane. But I'm wondering, if the camera's moving at all, could it produce that effect if it's at a slower shutter speed like that?
It certainly could. If you look at the other light sources on the image, you'll see that they are stationary. So that's some
that would make it more difficult to fake.
That is a series of. Sorry,
not fake, but you know what I mean. Like mistaken is a better word.
No, we want to be absolutely sure of it, and it's hard to say definitively. Like this group of researchers and scientists, you can't say 100%. Oh, they aren't lying. They aren't engaged in a decades-long process of lies. I don't know. Like they have multiple base camps. They are tracking this object on radar at the time of this occurring. It's simultaneous, multi-sensor. They are triangulating it from multiple vantage points. And they have one of the videos on one of the first videos I show on the website is the precursor to this photo. And it is a fascinating video showing a series of lights appearing as a triangle, doing a bunch of wild things, and then seemingly dissipating, though the researchers say that once these objects disappear visibly, they continue to be tracked on radar, sometimes for hours. Dr. Tutorani mentioned, I think, 4 hours, even though it was only visible for a few minutes.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
Sorry, Mike, did you have a question? I was going to read this $5 question.
No, go for it.
Okay. So this is from Swink McLeod, $5 donation. Thank you so much.
Swink McLeod.
Great name. Great name. Swink. It sounds almost like a villain in a Super Mario Brother
Swink
game.
McLeod.
You know, like level 4 or something. Anyway, Campbell, any of these spheres look anything like bioluminescent spheres of energy? Bioluminescent like a jellyfish, but glowing and rotating.
I would say that some do look that way. Definitely some look that way. I wouldn't say definitively that that's, I mean, obviously, I don't know that if that's what it is, but, you know, so there's these objects appear in so many shapes, sizes, different behavior patterns or movement patterns that anybody who has, this is the crazy part, everybody who's had an eyewitness experience, all these varieties of things, something very similar has occurred in this valley. And it's like, I don't know exactly what to make of it. Honestly, it was just so stunning. And it's exactly what you described at the start, Lou. It's like, how is it possible that these things exist? It's, and then you just dive farther and farther trying to, I mean, I got started on this almost trying to disprove myself, like, because I couldn't believe it. It didn't seem possible.
Right.
I don't know if you could tell, but, you know, my, you know, adult life, intellectual history, like, you know, I'm just, you know, purely sort of an atheist, like definitely would have been on the skeptic side of things, all this stuff. When former President Obama verified these objects of some kind were exhibiting movements and they can't explain, that's when it got me interested. And then when I found Hessdalen lights, I admit, and on my Reddit history, you can actually see it, I haven't deleted anything. You can see that I first say these, you know, have to be natural, because I couldn't conceive of it being something else. But then the further I dove into it, the same with the researchers themselves, the more humbled I felt, to the point where I apologized on Reddit to people who I've been arguing with. And I completely changed my argument style because I recognized the researchers themselves would be telling me that I was wrong because they don't know what's happening and they've seen things that are inexplicable.
Right.
I mean, my skeptical side, looking at the one image you just showed a few minutes ago, you know, my skeptical side goes, okay, well, you know, is it possible that this is some sort of, you know, plasma ball or energy that is of natural origin? Because you think of, like, even when you look at like lightning, you can see, you know, the drastic, you know, 90-degree turns that you'll see and that sort of thing. So, you know, I wonder what exactly this is, and if it's, you know, if there's a natural explanation that could be plasma and there's just something we just don't understand yet.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. I would say that, I mean, the researchers are physical scientists. The researchers would definitively, you know, both say that a natural option is probably the most likely. But then they also say there are these other objects that they have absolutely no idea what's going on. So, like, for the sort of sphere type that a lot of eyewitness experiences globally describe as UFOs, that kind could be some kind of plasma phenomenon. And even if it is plasma, you know, after talking to so many people online, I can say as well, you know, it's definitely possible that it's even some kind of intelligent life, some kind of non-intelligent, like almost like an amoeba, like a single-celled organism. It's possible. The scientists would not say that's the most likely, but they're also physical scientists, and these objects, if we interpret, as the scientists say, these are UFOs, if we interpret that to say these are the objects globally, and they have shown evidence, actually they published papers showing that these are a global phenomenon, then you see that throughout history, people interpret them based on their subjective lens. I think science provides, you know, a structure to sort of do verifiability. Right now, the verifiability does not extend into what exactly they are. But since there are multiple kinds, we can say maybe the spheres are plasma. And even if they are plasma, maybe they are some kind of life. Maybe it's the exterior of some kind of craft. I don't know. That's speculation. But, you know, the people talking about these warp drives online, they've pointed out to me, like, the external sort of way that it looks, maybe that's the thing on the outside. You know, it's like when something moves really fast, you can charge the outside of a spaceship, all this stuff. So I don't know, but there's an option. It really is an option for everything, and nothing is conclusive on the origin or true nature. And the variety of objects themselves, the researchers are very clear. They think there are multiple things happening here because there are two there's too much stuff going on.
This is an interesting point, and I kind of understand it. It says lightning on radar? Question mark. I know you can catch lightning on radar if it's a weather radar.
I just looked it up when I saw that comment. I looked
Yeah.
up lightning detectors versus weather radar. It says lightning detectors and weather radar work together to detect storms. Lightning detectors indicate electrical activity, while weather radar indicates precipitation. So it looks like lightning detectors use a different. It doesn't say lightning detector radar.
I would assume a weather radar is a different than, say, a military radar or a radar that's looking for objects in the sky, like physical planes. I have a feeling they would be different systems. That's just my guess. I'm not a radar expert. But I will say it did make me think, well, would an amoeba be picked up on radar? Like
Maybe it's a high density plasma.
right?
A high density plasma amoeba.
Amoeba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was only using amoeba as an example, but
but I like the idea of it. That's what struck me, is like this idea of a huge plasma intelligent amoeba that's able to produce itself wherever it wants in our atmosphere, and comes across as this, looks like a craft. It's is it more unbelievable to go with that hypothesis versus an alien species visiting us from another, thousands of light years away? I don't think so. I think those are both just as valid as the other. But you said there's a scientific that the scientists and the people studying was sort of steered away from that hypothesis. What was it in particular that they were like, yeah, there's no way this thing's an amoeba or any sort of living entity like that?
Well, I wouldn't say that they say that's not the case. And honestly,
Right.
Dr. Chiuderani in interviews is, he's kind of almost a different person than in his papers, because he's had so many problems with people taking like a fascinating concept that he's talking about, clearly defining it as speculation, and then it's taken entirely out of context, and it's said that that's definitively what he's saying. So he's so hesitant now, and this is like a serious issue. Like, how do you speculate? How do you like dream as a scientist? How do you look at these sort of like boundary regions where things become inexplicable if you aren't allowed to speculate? So,
I have a thought on. Can I share with you my thought on that real quick? And I think this is something that Avi Loeb is doing for the scientific community. And I think that if more scientists are able to speak out about their hypothesis, and one of the things he mentioned was that we shouldn't be waiting on results or a white paper or a study to be completed before sharing the information with the public, because we should all be along for the ride, right? So science is not something that is ever complete. It's not something that is ever finished. And if we can't have actively engaged imaginations to speculate and hypothesize, then we're really ignoring what the truth of the scientific method is, and that's to take information, take data, and make informed hypotheses, no matter how outlandish they may seem.
Absolutely. And we haven't touched on the structured category a ton. I do think that maybe is the most interesting category from sort of a UFO perspective, because I mean, these objects, I think we talked briefly on Thursday about how the portal, the Hessdalen light phenomenon, this documentary came out in 2009. That's years before the Nimitz Tic Tac event was known. And this documentary includes, like we saw a photo of what distinctly resembles a Tic Tac, an ellipsoid that is white, photographed by researchers in the atmosphere. And then there's a sequence of half a dozen plus interviews with residents from the valley who spoke to the filmmaker after the objects had been verified. They felt comfortable coming forward. They talked about being ridiculed for years and things like that. And all of them describe these structured objects over and over again. And the recreations, or I think they call them reconstructions in the documentary, they physically look identical to they literally made a Tic Tac flying around as one of the objects in this documentary. Was released in 2009, and it's like people go back to the 80s and even, I mean, before that, describing this exact kind of object. And the researcher himself, Bjorn Haug, the assistant professor from Oswald University College, who photographed that image we were looking at, he photographed this other photo too in 2004 of what appears to be a Tic Tac in the valley. And he says it looked like a solid object, almost like a metallic cloud. Those are his exact words. And he can't explain it.
I guess when you say structured, are you talking primarily about kind of like oval shaped crafts like that? Or I know before you mentioned there's like two lights and a line between them. And I guess, kind of my pushback on that would be, gosh, why can't we get a photo of these structured craft and instead of, just these orbs of light?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we did look at that photo on Thursday. I think we probably.
Do you have a link to that? We could pull it up.
Yeah. How did I send that to you? Because it might still be in.
Oh yeah, it's probably my Twitter. Here,
yeah.
Why don't you guys keep talking? I'll find it.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. And it's okay. The category of object that appears solid and metallic is very rare. And that is part of the difficulty. And it's not easy for any of these things to be captured. The researchers all say, we've seen things of this sort. We've talked to so many people who've seen things of this sort. It's not really a question to them that exists. The empirical data you can't verify fundamentally that these metallic looking objects exist empirically right now. It's just that all the researchers say that this is something they've seen. All the eyewitnesses in the valley say over and over, these are things that they're seeing. You can definitively say that these other structured objects like triangles, it has a bright light on each corner, things like that appear to be solid in some respect. I can't remember which exact researcher, but one of them describes rain appearing to evaporate off the surface of the object between the lights, and it's just, they can't explain that.
That's wild. I'll play this.
Så var vi her I Hessdalen med studenter og forskere fra Italia.
Who's speaking, you said?
That's Assistant Professor Bjorn Haug from Oswald University College, and he's talking about how they've been doing, bringing students up to do the triangulation bases every 2 weeks, twice a year for 15 years plus, since I think 2000 they've been doing this, bringing students up to do the triangulation.
Og hadde da bemannet flere forskningsbaser her. Blant annet var det ene forskningsbasen på toppen av Rognene. Vi så da sydover I dalen her, og midt på natta, sånn ved 2-3-tida, så begynte det å skje ting. Det som hendte da var det at det så ut som det var et slags tett objekt. Det kunne se ut som kall det metallisk sky, som plutselig oppstod på et sted. Og så flyttet det seg, og 5 ganger så klarte vi å ta bilder av akkurat dette skjedde. Og det siste som skjedde med den metalliske skyen, det var på størrelse da med en låve.
I mean, if that doesn't look like a Tic Tac.
2004.
So
2004. No shit.
Yeah, and they released this before we'd heard about the Nimitz then.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he talks about this sequence where it disappears and then a fireball reappears. The fireball seems to break apart and then smaller balls fly off of it and then hit treetops. And then blue spiraling beams of light emerge from the treetop impact point. And then that blue spiraling beam ricochets. He's describing it now off of another treetop, and he successfully photographed it.
Oh, and it's got a spiral to it.
And
look at that.
I posted this on Reddit, and I've had people contacting me saying, I've seen that blue beam, and I have never, as somebody said like in 1996 or something, and they say, I've been looking for an image to verify what I saw this whole time. I have never been able to find anything. This is the first time. That is exactly what I saw. And it's, 2 people have contacted me separately saying that.
Wow.
Well, I was going to say 2004. That's the same year of the Nimitz case. So it is very interesting that you guys catch a perfect picture of the Tic Tac in the same year. halfway around the world. Yeah,
and
that's
it
wild.
lines up with the whole. I mean, I don't know what I think about it, but the whole portal concept. It's like,
right.
what's going on there? And
That is
I've
interesting.
had some fun conversations with people speculatively. It's like, if it was some kind of craft, like the sequence that he describes, it would be the craft. I don't know if something terrible happens, right? It blows up and the parts fly apart and then crash in the treetops and are ricocheting all over the place. I mean, it's just it allows for so many things.
Let me ask you. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and reset the room real quick, and then we'll ask a couple more questions about Hessdalen, and then maybe move on to the week's news. But I dig it, dude. I think these pictures are fascinating. Do we want to watch the rest of this video before we reset?
I think we got the most of it, right?
Yeah, there's nothing else specific. This is just going over research details. Yeah.
That's amazing. For those of you just joining us, first of all, welcome to the Unidentified Celebrity Review. If you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you can take your destiny into your own hands. If you want to know whenever we go live, all you got to do is click that bell. Also, you can check us out over at the Singularity Lab. Click the link in the description. We're going to be there live tomorrow. We've got a pretty amazing show for you. We're going to have Bradley Voorhees discussing the God equation from the mouth of a madman, a self-described madman. And you're not going to want to miss that episode. All you got to do is subscribe over there. Click the bell so you know whenever we go live. If you are a supporter of the Unidentified Celebrity Review and you're a Patreon member, guess what? You've got access to our merch store. This stuff is flying off the shelves, you guys. I just got a text from our executive producer, Alex, who said the sales are blowing up. I don't want you to miss your opportunity to get a hat. I don't want you to miss your opportunity to get a hoodie or something dope that will remind others that they need to go watch the Unidentified Celebrity Review.
And we're added to the store pretty much every day. My sister already had like 4 requests. I was like, okay, fine. Let me put these in here. It was so hilarious. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have a request, if there's something you want to see, let me know. To Patreon, leave me a message in the Patreon. It's a great way to grab my attention. Also, I wanted to bring in Artemis because we do have a poll. And I want to go over this poll here and see what the results were. As soon as I see her pop in, we'll get that cooking. And yeah.
What was the poll? What's the poll today?
Okay, well, poll. I mean, well, that's what she does. That's what she.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
But it looks like we lost her. She was here, but now she's gone. Okay,
Artemis Prime, where have you gone?
Artemis Prime, she'll be back. I'll wait for her. As soon as she gets here, we'll get the poll.
Let's just all be quiet. Let's all be quiet, and then like just have dead air until she comes, and then we'll tell her it's all her fault.
Yep. And then that'll be super awkward for the podcast listeners. By the way, both shows are available on what is it? Spotify
and iTunes and Apple Podcast. So also Singularity Lab has just went live on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So we're trying to get that new and noteworthy section. So if you can go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be sick.
That'd be sick. Okay. Well, let's wait for Artemis to get in here, and I guess we'll ask a couple last questions. First of all, I wanted to know, as far as Hessdalen is concerned, how's the tourism there in that part of Norway? Is there a community built around these lights, like say there is in Roswell around the crash of Roswell? Like, is there a museum? Do they have hotels themed in alien stuff? What's going on over there? Would it be a fun place to say take the family as opposed to Disney World, which I'm sure the kids will love that. The kids will just go crazy. Hey kids, we're going to Norway and we're gonna go maybe see some plasma balls
at 3 a.m.
Disney World this year at 3 a.m.
in the winter.
That's cool because it'll be 6 p.m. your time. So yeah, or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's been an active collaboration between Professor Strand's Project Hessdalen from at least the 90s with the local municipality trying to encourage tourism and stuff. And it was somewhat successful in the 80s because they were so frequent, anybody could go and see them. But because they reduced in frequency and now are quite difficult to capture successfully, there's in one of the documentaries, the mayor of the town specifically says, it's not working out so great for us. We were trying to build an information center and combine these things. And they have some plaques up and kind of trying to engage on that, but they are struggling to draw people. And it's an interesting, it kind of ties in, like very few people know about these things. Some members of the UFO community are actively hostile when you bring up the Hessdalen lights, because, I mean, it depends on the person, but my experience in engaging with them is that they perceive them as kind of like a threat to their personal theory as to what UFOs might be.
Makes sense.
Fair enough. I would just say back that if you look at these phenomena more closely, you'll actually see that they are the most conclusive evidence available to say definitively that there are extraordinary objects in Earth's atmosphere. It's and the variety of shapes and all these kinds of things and the structured and all of this stuff, it supports anybody who recognizes through taking the subject seriously that there really fundamentally is some kind of physical object here. And it's zipping around all over the place, and we really don't know exactly what it is. And there are probably, as the researchers say, there are probably a few things happening.
That's wild. And they're less, that's so weird that they, in the 80s, they were so much more prevalent, but they're less and less prevalent. I wonder if the aliens are giving up on us.
That's one option. To go back to sort of the researchers, they would say that it's possibly tied to some mining activity in the valley. There's a sulfur mine that became inactive, and they've photographed the objects sort of seemingly around the abandoned mine semi-frequently. And it's unclear exactly what the connection there is, but there's some natural explanations tied to the unique geology of the valley. But Dr. Teodorini himself points out, it's like, it doesn't explain the global prevalence. It doesn't explain how long they last. Like he said on Thursday, like if any of these explanations that are natural, like it should be disappearing after like a few seconds or minutes.
I think, Right. I think Alien Bokeh Face has the best theory here. Hasselhoff's peak was the 80s, as was the Hessdalen peak.
That's a great theory.
They both peaked simultaneously. I doubt that's a correlation.
Well,
I've gone on record.
I don't know. I mean, Hasselhoff was pretty big in the 80s, and
did they like him in Norway? I know he was big in Germany.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say hell yes. They probably loved him in Norway. And the man has the ability to really produce some magic in the skies.
Amen, brother.
Okay,
I see Artemis.
I see Artemis as well. Let's bring in Artemis and see what the results of our poll were today. Did she freeze? Nope, there she goes.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on, Artemis? Okay, so we had a poll. And yeah, give us the results. What's going on in the poll? What was the poll question? Answers and results.
Okay, so have you heard the Hessdalen lights in Norway? Have you heard of it? People said 49% said yes, 45% said no, and 7% said I can barely pronounce Hessdalen.
I've been
what do you think is mine?
As well.
I'm gonna go with choice C.
Yeah. I think that's 100% of people.
Well, I can tell you for the whole pre-show while I was planning this, I was just like Hessdalen. My brain wants to go
Hessdalen or something.
Hessdalen or Hessdalen.
Well, how do the Norwegians pronounce it?
I don't even know, honestly. They're
hard probably to watching this, shaking their heads.
I'm like, gonna assume it's something like Hessdalen, just with a more Norwegian.
Hessdalen.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Michael. It almost sounds. I just watched a Norwegian show, and it's got a lot of like a German vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Their language, so
but less angry.
Way
Hessdalen.
Hessdalen lights.
Yeah.
Wow, that went dark real quick. All right, Artemis, I'm going to put another poll up. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. I'm going to type it in there. We'll bring you back at the end of the show, and we'll get some more poll results. Other than that, how was your weekend?
It was good. I went live on Alien Girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
Starting
yeah.
some UFO girls. So everybody should tune into that.
How was that?
Yeah,
It was
how
really
was
good.
yesterday.
Yeah?
It was live last night. Yeah. A bit
On-
past
on
my
Alien Girls
bedtime,
too?
honestly. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we didn't dive too deep, but just kind of, it's my first public interview. So that was really fun and a bit nerve-wracking, but it was good.
You got the dates for the big phone home wrong, by the way.
I did. Oh my God. I was like, I had the right
Yep.
day, but the wrong month.
Wrong month.
I was like, wait a minute. I know.
Yeah.
I said August, and I'm like, wait, August is this week.
My girlfriend didn't know the dates. It's like, look at these girls. Look at these girls.
Either
Not
I
representing
know
very well.
the marketing was awful on that. I'm so sorry.
You're gonna have to talk about your employment when this show's over, Artemis.
No. It's because of
you're
that
gonna have to
drink
start
on
paying
Friday,
us.
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. You're gonna have to start paying us.
I'm the one working the poll.
Wow, really?
No, I shouldn't have even said that because now like the comments are gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
and
right.
if you feel like you want to pledge based
Feel
on that
super
comment,
chat,
feel free to
yeah.
super chat.
Yeah, I mean,
Please super
usually
chat.
there's dollar bills around polls, so
Yes, yes, we do
all right.
not. Yes, we. Never mind.
all right, we'll bring you back later. We're just gonna end this, Artemis. Bye.
I had like 12 jokes just ready.
Yeah. I mean, of course you did. You're a silly man with a small, tiny peanut brain. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm trying to think. Okay, all right. That's a perfect poll question. Do men have small peanut brains?
Yes, the answer is yes. Working the poll. Yes, she's just doing a good job sharing the poll results. You guys, mind out of the gutter. Mind out of the gutter. All right. So, what do you got next, Lou?
Okay. Hold on. I'm doing this poll.
Oh, you're doing the poll. My bad. Okay, I'll
don't worry about
it. Hey, we've got Bricktop here with a $5 super chat.
Yeah. Oh,
Get Artemis off the poll fund. I knew it was coming. Well done, Bricktop. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for making me not the person who said that. It's much appreciated.
All right. So we got a new poll up, and
We
the
do.
new poll. Yep.
Do you want to share what the poll is?
Yep. It's, do polls usually have dollar bills around? Yes, no, I'm too young to be around polls. All right, so that's the new poll. We'll get the results at the end of the show. Okay.
And
so,
Artemis will work the poll with us.
Artemis will work the polls for us. Okay, so we have two things we could talk about. The first I really wanted to talk about was this this tweet from Dave Beatty, because I thought it was just beautiful, because it's a really great example of getting something wrong and not digging your heels in, and committing to how wrong your theory is.
Oh, okay. All right.
So hold on a second. Let me just pull this up on Twitter. But basically what happened is, because of the interview that Jeremy Corbell had with Commander, somebody remind me of his name real quick.
Oh,
because I'm doing two things at once here.
Harvey Levin.
Perfect. That's it. Show's over, everybody.
Chad Underwood, I believe, is the real name.
Thank you so much, Rather. That was so brilliant. And I love the fact that he kicked himself right out. He just knew what to do.
Dude, he's really starting to get the show, and I love to see his growth. Okay, so Dave Beatty, let me share the screen here, because I'm a dum-dum here. Share a new screen. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So this is a tweet from Dave Beatty. I'm going to zoom on in a second here, you guys, so you can take a look with me.
Yeah.
And he tweeted this out on July 30th, which I believe was a Friday. And he's wrote, "I'd like to publicly apologize for any error in my film, The Nimitz Encounters, that is due to the 13-page executive summary. It now appears statements/interviews are either fabrications or errors. Many of the statements in my film are attributed to that doc and interviews. So basically, this guy, and it goes on, he's like, until we can verify which interview statements are fabrications such as Chad Underwood's, all must be called into question. It's a very unfortunate state of affairs, in my opinion. I think we need to begin to compare witness statements today. Hashtag Nimitz UFO. The submarine captain, the E-2 Hawkeye pilot, the senior chief fire controlman that said objects descended from above 80,000. Whoa, what happened?
Oh, so you just went to your left for some reason.
Yeah, weird. That descended above 80,000 feet, and many others. These interviews are all suspect and possibly
wait. All interviews. So, but the interviews were separate from the executive summary, no? He's saying these interviews specifically were in the executive summary.
Correct. Well, what he's basically saying is the interview that Jeremy Corbell had with Chad Underwood. In that interview, Chad Underwood said that all of the executive summary testimony that you know about, at least for my aspect, only 10% of what I said is actually in there.
Right.
So because his testimony is only 10% of what made it into these what's the word I'm looking for?
Executive
summaries, okay, to this executive summary, it now calls into question all of the other testimony in this executive summary.
But isn't an executive summary simply that, a summary?
It contradicted what Chad Underwood said on
which part exactly? Do you guys know which part exactly was contradicted?
Jamming, the radar jamming, I believe. This report, I think, explicitly said there was no radar jamming, and I think it quotes Chad Underwood, and now Chad Underwood is saying there was radar jamming. This executive summary is 100% wrong.
He said that the lines on his system indicated what would typically appear as jamming, and that was inconsistent. So exactly.
Well, here's what I found interesting is that, man, it takes a lot of moxie to do something like this. I mean, you produced, you directed, you spent probably at least a year of your life putting this film together. You go out, you get these interviews, you get these testimonies, and now the entire movie is obsolete because you based a lot of those things off of the executive summary.
Well, to kind of, I don't want to throw Dave Beatty under the bus.
No, we're not throwing him under the bus.
I'm about to a little bit.
Oh, okay. Be careful because he is coming on the show.
But there was nothing really to make anyone. There was no evidence that executive report was legit, right? It was something that was put out there. There's no header on it. We didn't know who created it. It was just something that looked legitimate, and people kind of took as face value because it looked legitimate. But that's
even Mick West.
This is the danger. Yeah, and that's the danger of.
Well, Mick West was having a field day with this announcement. He's like, "You see, I told you," and he's right.
Right. But Mick West was also basing some of his stuff. He was creating arguments based on the executive summary too. So he can't be too quick to tell everybody he told him so.
That's fair.
How do you guys think? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Campbell.
I was just. What do you guys think that Mick West would say to the information about the Hessdalen lights? Because he has so firmly argued, quite definitively, that there are no extraordinary objects at the heart of this, phenomenon. He did very clearly, especially on Twitter. I respect Mick West. I think he's a good guy. I think he's. Based on his own website, what he is actively trying to do is deprogram people who have been brought into a conspiracy. And that's what he very clearly delineates. And he actually says that when he talks to us, or anybody who's in the media, he's trying to talk through them to convince people who are the, fans and stuff that what's being said is wrong. So he thinks that we're wrong. He thinks that we're in a conspiracy. He thinks that we're delusional to some extent because of false beliefs.
Yeah.
But, I'm really curious to see what he was going to say if there actually proves to be these extraordinary objects at the heart of this phenomenon.
I'm curious too, and I respect the deprogramming of conspiracy theories for one specific reason. Generally speaking, conspiracy theories are just that. They're theories. And so the problem is people take conspiracy theories as fact. And so when you have when you have missing information or missing evidence or intentional lies to cover up a truth, what do people do? They fill in the blanks. That's what people do. We fill in the blanks of the things that we don't understand. And so I think Mick Weston and I are exactly alike. Neither of us know what these things are. And I just think that sometimes the intellectual honesty isn't there in how he approaches that.
Well, I have a pretty interesting personal story on that subject directly involving Mick West, if you want to hear that.
Why I do?
Yeah, we'd love to hear it. By the way, I mean, you know,
careful
Mick,
though. Rather's about to smite you.
Yeah, either that or Mick will be listening and he'll pop in the show and correct your ass real quick.
I would love to see what he has to say because everything I say is going to be 100% accurate.
Ooh, shots fired!
I am curious. You know, maybe we could ask Mick after the show if he's ever researched the Hessdalen lights.
Well,
there's a chance he may have, and he hasn't even looked at it yet.
That's very closely related to what I'm going to say.
Okay, fair.
I described at one point that I, would have identified more closely as a skeptic this entire time up to realizing that these objects exist. And when I first found out the Hessdalen lights existed, and then I found out that they are descriptively basically identical to the history of UFOs, and the exact same features seem to be attributable to the Nimitz Tic Tac. I reached out to Mick West personally, and I sent him Hessdalen lights data, and I said, "Hey, take a look at this. Like, you're being like, say I respect you. I respect what you're doing. I respect you engaging with the community, trying to help people. Just, please be aware that there may prove to be real physical objects at the heart of this. So, just keep that in mind." And his response was interesting. Don't have time to look at it. And that's fair enough. He probably gets sent a bunch of theories all the time and stuff. So,
and at least he responded to you.
Well, yeah, maybe we could twist. Maybe we could twist his arm from this end to take a more serious look at it because I think his eye on it would be fun. I'm curious to know what he'd pull out of it if he can dig into it. But real quick, $2.99 super sticker from Justin Meter. Keep Artemis on the polls fun.
on the
you cheeky monkey, you. And then we got Chrissy Newton. What's up,
Chrissy
girl?
Newton
From the
in the
debrief.
house.
She's in the house. She just did a cool interview with Avi Loeb. Go check that out. UAP UK is here. What's up? Happy you are here. Okay, so
I'd be really curious what Mick would find looking into that.
There's a second part to the story, actually, if you want to hear it.
Oh, yes.
Please.
Why,
Sorry.
of course we do.
Of course.
So after he said he doesn't have time to look at it, fair enough, 100%. How many theories is he being sent, right? And there's no way to distinguish between what I'm sending and what anybody else is sending. So
right.
You
know what? To be honest with you, Campbell, though, you reached out to me and you shared all this information about the Hessdalen lights. The reason that I respond, I get a lot of DMs too, and I can't keep up with them all. But one of the things that I noticed about yours was it was so incredibly well thought out and well described that I was like, oh, okay, cool. It wasn't just somebody going, hey, look at this. Hey, look at that. Because, we can't, there's no way to keep up with all that. But the way you broke it down. So appreciate that and go on.
Real quick before you go on with your story. Sorry, I love cutting people off. If you did reach out to me and I ignored it, I apologize 100%. I don't think
you don't receive DMs, do you? Because I tried to reach out to you and Rather as well, and I ended up just
too diva.
putting it. Yeah.
Too diva.
Oh yeah, I don't think I got yours.
No, I put it as a comment on one of your tweets actually, and you liked it, but I figured that you were just sort of going through. It doesn't matter.
Lou, Tina, Tom, I'm so sorry. Yeah, did you get in touch with her because she was trying to reach you directly? I was trying to get you guys hooked up.
I don't think so. I didn't see. Just hit me up on Twitter, Tina, and usually I answer that pretty quickly. So, just DM me on Twitter because I know I'm pretty sure I follow you. If I don't, just like a bunch of my stuff and I will. But yeah, I just anytime somebody likes a bunch of my stuff, I'm like, oh, that's nice, and then I'll follow them. So yeah, if I know I followed Camelback, so he could DM me anytime. But yes, reach out anytime. Sorry, what were you saying?
Campbell, you were saying.
Yeah, your story.
Oh yeah, and I'm just actually this story came to mind because Michael, you said you're similar to Mick West, so actually it was making me think like, well, I don't know. I reached out to both of you, and only one of you received it. So after Mick West said he doesn't have time, fair enough. I signed up for Metabunk, his website. I went through all of the stuff, the info on what you're supposed to post, what you're not supposed to post. I went through a bunch of the forums. There's the UFO forum. I went through it. There's all kinds of speculation on there. People are speculating about whether it's the other F-18 or if there was a cruise missile. So, you know, they're throwing things around. So I'm like, okay, there's enough room here for some speculation. So I made a post on Metabunk and I posted the Hessdalen Lights information. And I said, hey guys, could you like just critique this? If there's something wrong with it, I want to see. You guys are like a strong skeptical community. The post was not, it was not posted. Mick West personally moderated it and deleted it before it could be posted. And he gave the reason as pure speculation is what he wrote. And I have the email if you want to see the proof. But
Mickey Mick, shame,
interesting,
shame.
Right?
So what exactly, when you posted and you said you read the rules and you posted, what exactly did you post?
I posted the content of one of my Reddit posts that is a breakdown of quotes supporting the idea that the Nimitz Tic Tac is some kind of phenomenon similar or the same as Hessdalen Lights. And I provided the links to the various research papers that show that these objects do in fact exist. And I, you know, if it's fair enough.
I thought the whole point of Metabunk was to allow those posts to be critiqued.
Well, that's what I thought. And
debunked.
It's his website, so I don't hold it against him. I think he's a good guy. I think he's trying to help people, and I think he has helped a lot of people.
Right.
But it's kind of funny when you look on his Metabunk website at the forums and people are like, no, they saw a cruise missile. And it's like, what are you talking about, guys? And it's pure speculation, right? It's like,
pure speculation.
Come on, why can't we speculate about this too? And maybe there's more evidence that these objects exist than a cruise missile was misidentified as something that immediately accelerated out of sight. And then you have to just say it's pilot error. And then you have all these other things.
I just love the idea of a cruise missile cruising over Norway.
Well,
20 times, yeah. By the way, 20 times a month for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make
20 times
sense.
a week
or a
for
week.
3 years in the 80s. Yes. And
wow.
And all kinds of it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, send me exactly what you sent him, and then I'll throw it at him and just say, hey, we really got some questions about this. Can you take a serious look at it? And let's see what happens. Because I know if he was here watching the show, which he does watch the show, he would have said something right now. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh yeah, if he was in the room, he would be all over this.
He'd be all over this. All over.
Well,
this.
I would love to understand it. I mean, because I don't hold it against him, but it's strange. I think.
Yeah, no, it's you know, we're talking about Mick West here. He is a strange cookie sometimes.
I tried to give him a
look around.
I know.
He's boiling at the. He is like, you are. All of you are dead in my eyes.
I want to know what the thoughts are going through Rather Be Squidding's mind right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, discussion shouldn't be, eliminated. Like I feel like, that is, probably, something that discussion, breeds, information and whatnot. So that is not a great look. But on the other hand, there isn't a whole lot of evidence there, right? So I can kind of see his perspective where probably nothing's going to be resolved. No one's going to be able to prove that these Hessdalen lights are what the Tic Tac is or not, So I can kind of see where he might be removing.
I see. So you're saying maybe if he would have posted something just about the Hessdalen lights instead of implicating it with the Nimitz encounter, it wouldn't have been deleted.
Well, yeah, like I wonder if you posted one of those photos with the the light trail and asked what their take on that is. I bet you they'd say it was a plane or something like that. That but I bet you they would respond and leave it up.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's a strange one.
You should test that, Campbell. You should drop that in there.
Yeah, I haven't gone back because of That's a
Yeah.
great example.
No, I get it.
I should be re-engaging, honestly.
Yeah, well, you know what, Michael had something similar on Reddit where he posted something, and I can't remember what the title it was, but the moderator was like, "That's offensive or doesn't fit within our model," and then Michael just relabeled it something else. Oh yeah. You said Avi Loeb slam dunks on Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. And that was offensive in the Reddit.
Dude, it got like 5,000 votes, and then it was just gone. I was like,
what a jerk. Anyway, let's reset the room real quick. We'll go into our last story, and then we'll get to the last poll. And actually, we do have a UFO video of the day as well that Jimmy Church dropped that I thought was hilarious. Because a lot of people jumped in his shit for it. It was pretty funny. So let's reset the room if we can, Michael.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You have found the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Maybe you've been here a while. Maybe you're brand new. If you're brand new, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you can take your destiny into your own hands and know anytime we go live. We're also live Tuesday and Thursday on the Singularity Lab. If you like fringe science, if you like breaking technology, if you like really cool shit coming down the pike, go check out Rather Be Squidding as well on YouTube. If you're interested in this Hessdalen lights phenomenon, make sure you check out UAPstudy.com. Did I get that right, Campbell? Did it?
Yep.
UAPstudy.com. Make sure you go check that out. It's amazing. If you're not somebody who's a Patreon yet and you want to get some sweet UCR merch, make sure you become a Patreon member and get the inside track on that. We're blowing up today. Don't miss your ball cap. You need to make sure you get it quick. We've also got some amazing shows coming out for the rest of the week. We got a huge week on the Singularity Lab and the Unidentified Celebrity Review Tuesday. Tomorrow, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to Singularity Lab. We've got Bradley Voorhees, the God equation from the mouth of the self-described madman. We're going to be discussing that. He believes he has solved dark matter. He believes he has solved the theory of everything. And he's been reaching out to theoretical physicists, and they're all ignoring him. Guess who's not ignoring him, guys? The Singularity Lab. So make sure you come check that out tomorrow. On Thursday, we've got Swarm Troopers, How Small Drones Will Take Over the World by David Hambling from Forbes magazine. On Wednesday, here on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Lou.
Well, I just actually confirmed Stephen Greenstreet for the second hour. He's going to help us review Mirage Men, because Stephen Greenstreet just watched it for the first time. Michael, have you gotten a chance to see it yet?
It's on my agenda. I will have watched it prior to Wednesday.
Cool. Rather, you've seen it, obviously. And you were talking about reading the book. Have you ever seen that flick, Campbell?
Yeah, it's incredible. Really, stunning.
It's a good one. So Stephen Greenstreet's going to be there to help us review it, and then also on on Wednesday, I'm hoping that we'll have our Big Phone Home website pretty much done. So we're going to reveal that. We're going to reveal the link for the merch store. So you guys will be talking about that pretty much for the first hour, going over mostly the Big Phone Home and answering any questions you guys have, going over all the details, the guests that we've lined up so far. It's gonna be a fun day. So a lot of reveals going down on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Ryan Sprague.
We miss looking into those baby blues. Young man.
If you haven't seen Stephen Greenstreet's X-File parody he made this week, go to his Twitter right now. Well, we can't, because we got to go to Jeremy Corbell's Twitter real quick, because this was just another one of these Twitter. What do I call these? I don't want to call it a beef, but I can tell you this: if there was a pay-per-view that I could watch a discussion between Jeremy Corbell and Stephen Greenstreet, I would pay top dollar to listen to that discussion, because after the not only the testimony from the police officer that we talked about last week in regards to the Bob Lazar discussion, but he also references, I believe, the Chad Underwood a discussion in these line of tweets. So he's got 7 tweets here with a clip of Bob. Should we listen? Well, we can't listen to Bob. I can't link this.
Why can't we listen? I can, if you want, I can do it.
You want me to send you the link?
Yeah.
All right, here, I'll send you the link. Because I can't log in for whatever reason from Google, whatever here. I can't log in from the, Doesn't matter. It doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to explain technical bull that nobody here wants to hear about. But to the 145 of you, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share the channel. It goes a very long way. If you can't support the Patreon, don't sweat it. You get the exact same show as the Patreon members. There's no special access from the show. You get live 4 days a week here, 1 to 4 or 4 to 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and then on Friday 1 to 3. All right.
In the light of testimony, George Knapp released an mystery wire with a former police officer explaining how the judge looking into Lazar's charges in the 90s was pressured by 2 representatives from a government agency to make an example out of him with harsh sentencing.
I know there are alien craft here from another planet. I saw other ones, but I was inside one. I know it was not made on Earth. I know it was made with materials that we cannot fabricate, we cannot duplicate, and we've never been able to. I know it uses a power source that's so advanced that we could only dream of something along those lines, and the energy density on it is phenomenal. I also know that there's lots of nonsense information that has gone around. Look, disinformation is the most powerful way to distort facts. You just throw a bunch of useless stuff out there, and they just take the real facts along with the nonsense and bundle it together and say, well, this is just impossible. And, there, your security is maintained. But I also know that at some point they've examined or had bodies of alien creatures somewhere. So I know that stuff for a fact. And that's the bottom line.
Okay, so now go and read the rest
I
of
know
his tweet.
There are alien craft here.
Okay. We get another confirmation 30 years later that forces us to consider that Bob Lazar was indeed telling us the truth. It's another brick in the wall for those who attempted to dehumanize the messenger to be able to conveniently dismiss the message Lazar has told us. Again, what if Lazar was telling it to you exactly like it is? That's a dilemma for those who would rather believe that he actively tried to fool you. It's best to consider the facts before making presumptions, as this over 3 decades ride continues to remind us. With all we know now, or with all we now know, all that has been admitted by our government and its representatives, it is time for us to put aside our own personal bias to contemplate the possibility that Lazar experienced exactly what he said. In my opinion, that exploration is long overdue. Our loss will be tremendous and immeasurable if we don't sincerely consider the gravity of Lazar's account. I suggest y'all wipe the slate clean from predetermination and a half-informed collective consensus to reach our original and personal opinion. It's worth it. By considering the possibility of what Bob Lazar told you, you open up lines of valuable inquiry, doors that otherwise would remain shut. I can't encourage you enough that this is the time to evaluate your personal bias and dive deep into the facts of the matter. If we don't ask the questions, we'll never get the answers. It's time to examine deeply the history of Bob Lazar's account, share your thoughts here, and begin the dialogue.
Okay, now just scroll a little bit down. Yeah, and look at Stephen Greenstreet's second reply to this.
The second reply?
No, yeah. If with the meme.
If we don't ask the questions, we'll never get the answers. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
that's in response to what he said in his last statement here. I mean, I would love to see this conversation between these two guys, because I feel like
was that it?
That was it. Yeah, that was basically. And I mean, there's more. There's so much more in this thread, so much more, because people started asking questions, and it was like they weren't really answered, and I'm not sure why.
Because it's not the forum. It's not the right place.
Well, I mean, George Knapp in a set of tweets was getting asked questions, and they were great. Jeremy McGowan was grilled him so hard, got a little mean, and then turned around and apologized to George Knapp. It was like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's not, I'm just angry. They want information. They want correct information, and it's frustrating when sometimes when you hear Knapp and Corbell, because I feel like they have more, and they're sometimes they're not specific.
Right, like they're information brokers almost.
If sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it does feel like that a little bit. But again, I mean, it's more data. It's more stuff for us to look at. I mean, he is right when he says, I do love this part of it. And it's, where is it? By considering the possibility of what Bob Lazar told you, you open up lines of valuable inquiry, doors that otherwise would remain shut. And I believe that about Bob Lazar 100%. The story forces you to open more doors. Whether they're
I would say that
you to quote on truth,
could potentially shut doors that could previously be open when you hear a story like Bob Lazar's, and there's Corbell talks about personal bias. I feel like he is exceedingly showing his own personal bias by standing behind Lazar 100%. And there are real problems with Lazar's story. Like when you go back to his footage about talking about his college professors, he names one, but that college professor is a professor at a community college, not at Caltech where he claims to be. And so, those little details just, they need to be answered. They need to be accounted for before,
right?
Because otherwise it really tarnishes the potentially true claims that he makes.
Well, I was on Spaced Out Radio this weekend, and we a gentleman by the name of Dr. They call him Science Bob. Science Bob. I can't remember his last name right
now. Bob McGuire,
I think. Bob McGuire. That's it. Yeah. And he was saying, look, he understands the holes in the story, but what he keeps going back to is the video that was taken at Area 51 on 3 different occasions of these objects over the base that Bob Lazar said were going to be there. And he took folks out in an RV, and they got caught on I think the 3rd or 4th trip out there. And then he was arrested immediately on the spot. And they said, if you go back and you stabilize those videos, that they look like, exotic craft.
Is this the same videos that George Knapp videotaped over and couldn't produce them in the documentary?
Possibly. But I mean, we have seen clips of these videos, though. No,
I don't.
They're public.
I think we've seen clips, but nothing that shows any of the 5 observables or anything.
No,
like
I agree.
There are definitely lights in the sky.
I mean, I've never seen these clips stabilized and see what the movements look like when there's no shakiness in the camera. But I'm not going to sit there and have an argument with someone all day about, VHS footage from a terrible camera in 1988, in the middle of the night. Like, it's just, that's not what I'm going to hang my hat on, But the one thing that everybody had agreed on, and this is where I draw the line with whatever the information is, whatever the data is, this is where I recommend you decide whether or not it's good enough. Is it proof? Would you take the Bob Lazar story and plop it on the table of a U.S. senator and say, there's my proof, and push all of your chips like you were in Vegas? Nobody ever says yes. Nobody. I've never asked that question to Jeremy. I'm curious to know what his answer would be on that. But I would never put that story in front of a senator and say, you need to look at this and consider this as proof that we are not being, that we have craft, we have bodies, we have technology, we have reverse engineered things, there's secret programs. Like, that's what you're going to put on a senator's desk?
Yeah. And I would kind of like to reply to Justin S., who's saying that, what am I talking about? His education doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that he's lying about everything, right? Like, I think that maybe there's a lot of hints of truth to what he's saying. And to that regard, maybe Corbell is right in that we should be listening to him because it might open some doors. But to your point, Lou, you can't put that information in front of Congress. You can't really convince an unbeliever about these claims when they look at the story and see these big holes, at least in my opinion.
Right. And now I become that said, Lou, they have shown the video. So I know I've seen these videos. I just haven't seen them stabilized and straightened out and maybe enhanced. It'd be nice. Maybe we could get like a HD version of these videos. That would be cool. Or a 4K, because I know they could pump up the quality on these old, if you have the original footage, which is another thing. Is the footage original? Is it the original VHS tape that was pulled from that actual event? Because that matters. That matters. And I don't know the answer to that. Like, I've never seen this tape. I don't know who holds it, who owns it. So that's the problem with it. But some folks are like, hell yes, I would. I'd put that on the table of a congressman. And look, maybe you would. And maybe you have 1 out of 100 congressmen that would take the actual time and try to learn all of the ins and outs of a Bob Lazar story. But I don't think a senator is going to take, I think, what you would need at least 6 hours to really just sort of dissect the entire story from front to back. I mean, that's a lot of time. I don't think you're going to get a senator to commit that kind of time to a story like this. And I don't think it's a story that you should put, say, in a congressional hearing. I just don't think it belongs there. Now, Does it have other uses outside of those settings? Absolutely. And that's, I think, where Jeremy Corbell, at least that's what I kind of took from his statement there, is that, this story inspires you to look into other hallways, other doors, open other things. And some are locked, some are not, and some of those doors lead you into some terrible, terrible places, but at least you're working it out. You're trying to figure it out. And hopefully you land on a show like this that makes you, not makes you, but, guides you in the right direction as to where the truth is. And again, none of us know where that is, but, we could try and speculate as best we can.
Well, we can pick things apart, right. And we can look into things deeply, and we can have, even though the conversations can be speculative, we're trying to think through these things and coming from a place of we don't know, as opposed to this is where you need to go, follow us here. And I think that's right. That's incredibly important. And shout out to Jack Ryan. I just followed you on Twitter. Quit your bitching.
Real quick. Hello, Christina Gomez. She's got a show this Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Shifting the Paradigm. Go check her out. She's always got some great guests.
And she's also going to be interviewing Avi Loeb in the coming weeks. I think in a couple months here. So
that'll be fun. You know what? I'd like to see Campbell here on Christina's show, because I think that would be a fun conversation too, because she's really in the portals. That could also be fun. Maybe we can hook the two of you guys up. And we also got to ask Christina, is she going to be part of the Big Phone Home too? Because I haven't had a chance to ask her yet. Christina, you're in the chat.
Have you seen her?
Christina, if you want to stop by for the last 5 minutes of the show and give us an answer on this, let me know. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to send her the link. I'm going to send her the link. Maybe she you do know that her entire studio, she puts it together and breaks it down every time. I know, but even if she got in a closet with her cell phone, I'd be happy.
Christina,
you know what I mean?
Have you seen her?
Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna send her the link. But no, I mean, it's you're bringing up good points, dude. Like, again, it inspires, but it's like, can we put this on the desk of a senator with the Bob Lazar thing? Do you think this is the story that keeps on giving? Rather, like, will this ever end, or will this be like mythology? Will we be talking about Lazar in say 400, 500, 600 years? Like, do you think he'll be like a Zeus or a Hades or something in this big story?
Well, it's just like you look at Roswell, right? And now we have like 30 plus witnesses who have like come out of the woodwork and confirmed that story. Lazar, it's still just Lazar. If in the coming years there are other people who come out and corroborate his story, then yeah, we probably won't get any physical evidence, but the story will build and build and build. But gosh, without any new evidence, I don't see how the interest is sustainable. But I'm probably wrong there, because I know other people surely have a different opinion there.
Well, Chris Mellon on Joe Rogan specifically, I found it pretty interesting. He said that a credible source, somebody he trusts, said that Bob Lazar was the guy who checked radiation badges and would hang out at the bar and talk to people who had access to things after work. And that's how he sort of seemed to gain access to this information in part. Right. So, but he had a huge impact by revealing the existence of these things, and that can't be, separated from his
the challenge always is, does the ends justify the means, right? And so you've got this guy who is, let's say he did gather the information in a way that he was lying about. It's very difficult to trust the messenger who lied to you.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, it's again, it's a story that keeps on giving, but it's just that I love it. I do love the story, but yeah, I don't understand why it's causing this much frustration in the Twitterverse, in the UFO Twitter world.
What was your when you did your video about Bob Lazar? What was the title again? Was it?
Can you trust a pimp? Can you trust a pimp? Can you trust a pimp? Because look, man, I know that's a really hard title, and I got a lot of flack for it, right? But can you? Would you leave your kids with a pimp? And Bob was a pimp. Like, that's a fact. Like,
he has a heart of gold, Lou.
It's not hyperbole.
I know, but Lou, pimping's not easy.
again, I was on Spaced Out Radio, and Lynn, who's on the show, she has a psychology major. And I was like, I was like, listen, like, what is the psychology of someone who would choose that as their employment? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. This is a great way to make money. And her response to that was, well, and I thought it was a pretty decent one. Usually, just because folks are well-read, they're educated, they have a lot of money, they're successful, doesn't mean that every decision they make is the best one. A lot of times, actually, folks in those positions make terrible decisions. And I was like, that's fair. I can't argue that, right? I can't totally argue that. But I mean, again, just my mindset. Like, I always try to imagine myself telling my mom, like, so what are you doing? Oh, me. I opened up a brothel, set up the security systems, hired some girls. They give me 50% of their money, and I'm just cruising along, Ma.
It'd probably be the same kind of impulsive personality that would leak top secret information and lose their extreme job, right?
Right, which is then, but then that leads me to go, well, who the hell would hire that guy at the most secretive facility on the planet? I mean, there are background checks. Trust me when I tell you, if you're going to work at Area 51, they're going to do their homework on who you are. And so this is where the story breaks apart. And then when you hear Christopher Mellon, I want to believe this story, man. I want it to be true so bad. And again, it was this story sparked my curiosity. It's as Jeremy Corbell loves to put it. What does he say? It's weaponizes your curiosity.
Weaponize your curiosity.
That's the phrase. But Suna
what is that?
Says,
what do you make of that? What do you make of weaponize your curiosity?
I love it. I think it's a great term. Yeah.
I think it's horrible.
Why? You're loading your guns. Get ready to get some information.
We should all be peaceful.
We're attacking the data, rather. We're attacking the curiosity with as much tools and information as we can.
If it gets us disclosure, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, you guys. Well, that was today's show.
I love you guys.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. Campbell, real quick before you head out of here, if you can, tell the people where they can find your stuff. And thank you so much for stopping by, man. It was a really, really fascinating convection. The Hessdalen Lights. Hessdalen Lights. Anyway. So yeah, please.
Yeah, UAPstudy.com. It's ad free. Just head over there. I'd also just like to thank Tools for Conviviality, the founder and moderator of our UAP. He set me up with Dr. Teodoran actually and explained that to me. So I'd like to say thanks for that. And also, just if you guys want, any of the fans want to send money anywhere, send it to these guys. They're making it happen for all of us. And I can't thank the three of you and all of your support enough. It's been amazing watching you guys just like accelerate this conversation, and I think you're going to keep doing bigger and better things. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, it was an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to have you on again. Hopefully if we can get you into the big phone home too. The spots are filling up fast. I'm curious on what day I would put you in. Would it be science? Would it be Anyway,
well, if there's a spot, toss me in there. If not, no worries.
We'll try and get you in there. We'll try and get you in there.
We might be able to give him Science Day.
I think so. I mean, that's your day. That's your day.
15 minutes.
I would love to bring in the Hessdalen Lights to Avi Loeb and see what they think, get their opinions on it. So maybe we'll bring you in with Avi and have a discussion about Hessdalen. I'm clearly the third choice on the first poll. Speaking of poll, we'll see you soon, Campbell. Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, Campbell.
Thank you so much to the $1.99 donation from Lord Ludicrous Plaid for $1.99. Corbell is out of leaked videos and back on Lazar. That's interesting. Wow, Michael, did that hit you that hard?
That hit me pretty hard, man.
Yeah.
Because think about it. That's not possible. That's not too far off, possibly.
No, it might not be. And it's, I don't, did you just see? Anyway, no, this will extend the show. I'm not going to ask the question.
Okay.
But
Save it
it's
next time.
anyway. God, it's blah. But I do love how this guy's meme-
Everyone's like,
hold
"We
on,
don't
hold
have
on,
this show."
This guy's meme is Lord Helmet from Spaceballs. Just you can get a Spaceballs.
Look at Sprague.
What does Sprague say?
Corbell is not
out of videos. That's what he said. You know, he has said that multiple times. I'm curious. Yeah, I hope, man. I hope they're better than these first ones. I'm not gonna lie. Hope they're better than these first ones. That's just me.
We'll see.
Being greedy, but we'll see. Yeah. Well, that's all we can do is wait and
More
see.
data,
All right,
more
so
data.
before we end the show, let's bring in Artemis Prime one more time to give us the poll results for the end of the day poll, end of the show poll. So, what was the poll, Artemis?
Does Artemis not have the best smile on like planet Earth? Is her smile not the best?
No, it's not.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Thank you.
Michael?
You guys are making me blush.
If you got a super chat and you want to let Artemis know that her smile is the best on the planet, now is the time. Sorry, Artemis, go right ahead.
I'm so blushing. Okay. So the poll results were about the poll. So do polls usually have dollar bills? I guess I would know. 44% said yes.
Okay.
32% said no. And 24% said, I'm too young. I'm not around polls. I don't even know what a poll is. Like,
Good for you.
the election?
Good. There you
know.
go. Good for you. Way to
like
stay
some polls.
humble and pure. All right, Artemis, real quick before you leave, if you could tell everybody where they can find your stuff, where they can find you on Twitter.
Yes. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram. It's Artemis Koskinen, and maybe YouTube too. And I will start posting stuff there.
Ooh,
So
little tease.
maybe.
Excellent.
Little
Ooh, are
lives
you
or
launching a
something? We'll
YouTube
see.
channel? Ooh.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Kelly's got me going from the show last night, and she really
It's
she wants
addictive,
to
right?
advocate for these UFO girls. Yeah, I've got 2 interviews already lined up actually.
Wow. There you
Damn.
go.
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be good. Yeah.
Excellent, Artemis.
So,
Well, keep us posted.
Seeing more of me. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Hopefully more of me on here too. So
Well, I mean, you've gotten on here. Nice.
Yeah.
A couple last shows. You're getting on there more. So,
Well, we
Play your
see you
cards
tomorrow.
right.
We'll see you tomorrow in the Singularity Lab, right, Artemis?
obviously,
Obviously.
it's my 2 favorite shows. Whole planet.
Real quick, Bricktop with a $5 donation. Fund me. I'm blinded by Artemis's beautiful smile. There you go.
That's really sweet. Thanks, Big
All right,
Top.
Artemis. We will see you tomorrow, my lady.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye,
Artie.
everybody.
All right, gentlemen. We've reached the end. We're here. Rather Be Squidding, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your wonderful intros. Any new videos this week that you're working on?
Yeah, I'm working on this metal alien
That's right.
concept, which I think it's going to be fascinating. Head on over to Rather Be Squidding and subscribe. Probably be released in a couple days here.
Awesome. Michael Mataluni, anything else you want to add on?
I think we should do the next poll we should do is to see how much people like or dislike Jeremy Corbell's Weaponize Your Curiosity. That'll be interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think you might be voted down, Lou. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Fair.
I did the comments. Ooh, it didn't look good for Corbell.
They didn't like Weaponized Curiosity, huh?
It didn't look good in the comments, bro.
Yeah, I missed that part. I missed that. Okay, well, we'll talk about it on Wednesday, I guess, because we're gonna have Stephen Greenstreet on, so I'm sure we'll get a couple questions on that end as well. All right, you guys. Well, of course, we appreciate all of you guys being here. I think we got up to 150 in the crowd today, so appreciate it. Share, subscribe, like. All of that stuff helps us in the algorithm, helps us get in front of more people, helps us get more fans, more people who enjoy the show like you and are able to support us and provide this show 5 days a week, because we are a public access channel. We run because of viewers like you. So we truly appreciate it. Thank you all so much to all the new Patreons, all of the old Patreons. You guys will see your names at the end of the show. So if you want to become a Patreon member, please do. Before we go, of course, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the music you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for coming aboard and getting weird with us here on another episode on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name is Luis Jimenez. That is Rather Be Squidding and Michael Mataluni. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the Singularity Lab. Peace.